So Tamara, can we go to number 15? Because this is an interesting story here. So this was released. This is footage released on Al Jazeera this week. This is IDF drone footage that was captured by the 𝐶 brigades. They didn't say how they captured it, but we have shown on this program for a number of months now. That says 𝐓𝐡𝐞 in Gaza City. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 is east of Gaza City, and we're seeing the Israeli military buildup through their drone. And we're seeing a school, because they use the schools as a military base. Of course, they write in their propaganda that 𝐶 fired a rocket from 350 meters away from a school. And in their 350 meters away from a school, and here's the IDF inside the school. We know they've destroyed the universities in Gaza, the elementary schools. The only schools that are still standing in Gaza are the ones that were used as bases. And often when they use it as a base, they'll destroy it after. You can see all their armored vehicles. So this gives us a sense. This video we could talk about for a week, because there's a lot going on in this video. We're seeing drone footage from the Israelis captured by the Palestinians and then deployed by the Palestinians as research. They have their own drones to do this, but you can see how every single tank is parked. In some ways, this drone footage is more valuable than if you actually had a mole who was driving the tank and parking it, because the overhead shot is worth more. You can see the positions there, and this is a graveyard. So they're showing footage from the IDF drone of the graveyards that were destroyed by the Israelis. These captured drone footage and other various surveillance. You can see the destroyed cemetery there. The destroyed cemeteries, the using of schools. This video had the use of a human shield. I'm not showing that footage, and I haven't been showing that kind of footage throughout this war as a choice, as a decision, to not show that. The footage is brutal. It shows Israeli soldiers blindfolding a man. There's 10 soldiers around him, and they take off his blindfold and tell him to go and walk and knock on the doors and tell the resistance fighters to come out. He's being used as a human shield. His identity is unknown, still unknown. This is more than a week after this video was shown, and his fate isn't known either. So I'm not bringing them that. I'm not going to show you that footage. It's really terrible. We have seen the Israelis use human shields all throughout this war. We've seen them use it throughout our entire lifetimes. They use them in Jenin. They use them in the West Bank. They've tied children to the front of their armored vehicles before. So using human shields is not new, but this footage is new. And this is the type of footage. This is the reason why this week Al Jazeera was shut down. They shut down Al Jazeera. They took all their broadcasting gear. They took all their computers, and they took their phones, because the Israelis are trying to figure out how this footage of theirs is being released. How is the fighters getting this footage to Al Jazeera and showing it to the world? Because the human shield, I'm bringing you this part of the clip because this shows where their tank positions are, and it's interesting to see where all their tanks are parked. But the human shield footage is stuff that will go to The Hague. This is war crimes trial stuff shown in 4K footage, in clear as day, war crimes. And it's not the first one, right? Like we saw, if we remember, a couple months back, we saw that drone footage that was released from Khan Yunis that showed the drone strikes on those 4 innocent men who were walking back to Khan Yunis to check on their houses. And the Israelis killed them one by one, hunted them down. People were disturbed for weeks about that. We never have time to process any of these things, and we move on to the next crimes, because a few days later, footage was released to Al Jazeera, presumably from a 𝐶 sniper surveillance team along the beach, coming up to Gaza City, where 2 men were walking along the beach with white flags, attempting to come up to the Israeli troops and ask them something. The troops murdered them on camera. They didn't know they were on camera. So because they didn't know they were on camera, they murdered them. They called over the bulldozer driver, and the bulldozer driver buried them in the sand on the Gaza beach. And that story came out because the resistance gave footage to Al Jazeera. So it's, of all the international humanitarian lawyers, international law, NGOs, human rights groups, the footage of this war, the definitive footage of this war, of Israel's war crimes, is going to be given by the resistance. The resistance is giving these videos. They're capturing drones. They have constant surveillance. And this was just a clue that came in this week, because last show, you'll remember, I showed 2 other examples of captured drone footage. So the Israelis believed that this was the beginning now. The war had wound down. There was time for the fighters to disseminate this information. And the Israelis certainly believe that there's many more of these captured Israeli drones that show their crimes. And so the Israeli government, in their ultimate wisdom, their security cabinet, decided to ban Al Jazeera and sack their Jerusalem offices with black-clad, like, special forces police officers. And as was said in Nora's report, and I'll repeat it again, they had their computers taken, they had their cell phones taken, which is something illegitimate in anywhere in the world. These are dictatorship. The BBC had a really hard time with this because they wanted to say this isn't like Israel shutting down Al Jazeera, because Al Jazeera shows videos from the resistance in Gaza, but also critically, they show Israeli footage captured by Israelis, captured by Qassam, of the Israeli drone footage of their own crimes. And so that's the reason that, among others, that Israel shut down Al Jazeera this week. I don't think it's a coincidence that these 3 drone videos happened in an 8-day window, and on the 9th day, the Israelis attack and shut down Al Jazeera's Jerusalem bureau. And just to point out for Al Jazeera, there has been more than 50 attacks on Al Jazeera and their journalists, wiping out entire families, killing the journalists themselves, killing the journalists' families while the journalists are at work. So they show up doing their work, they show up to the hospital or show up to the house, and it's actually their family that have been killed. We've covered those stories throughout the war. And so it wasn't enough to just kill and exile the Al Jazeera journalists. They actually banned the network, stole all of their broadcasting equipment, stole their computers, and stole their phones, because of what we're looking at here, which is captured Israeli drone footage showing war crimes, showing them using schools as military bases, showing them overrunning and digging up gravestones for no military purpose. This is not part of, you can see the tank is just positioned there right inside the cemetery, and they drove over the gravestones. That's what that crushed rock that you see in front of the tank is. That's the crushed gravestones. So there was some instances when the Israelis said that they were digging up cemeteries looking for their captives that had been killed. That's, insofar as that happened, it was very limited and isolated, but they have destroyed something like 17 cemeteries in Gaza by doing just this, driving their tanks over it, taking their Caterpillar D9 bulldozers and armored excavators that we showed you to dig up cemeteries, to destroy people's homes, and then to build a bridge from the American pier along the Netzarim corridor. So that's what the Israelis were up to this week, and that's what the resistance responded with this week. And still, once again, just to say, everything that I brought you this week is from the last 7 days since you last saw me. We still are reporting the ground war, the war day by day. Nothing. Well, I brought you an October 7th video that I stitched together, but other than that, everything is from these past 7 days. So that's the resistance report from Gaza.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.